I feel like people hear about manifestation or hear the word manifestation and just immediately assume that it's like this unreachable thing, this magical thing, and that you would have to be super spiritual to tap into or really educated on to use. But I really don't think that is the case at all. I think we are manifesting all the time. Everyone is a manifester. You have been manifesting since the day you were born, whether you realize it or not. So I feel like why not, educate yourself a little bit more on it and be intentional with it and get better results from the universe than just sitting in autopilot and auto manifesting. I feel like there is so much information about manifestation out there that can sound a little daunting in a sense. I know in all these years that I've kind of learnt more about it and read about it and tried to use different tools and stuff, it can become a little overwhelming because there is so much information out there on how to do it and how to do it right, which is good, but it can also just become a little daunting and a little confusing. Even though I'm contributing to, the people on the internet that talk about manifestation, I am going to be trying to simplify it and talk about how I've used it in a way that I hope is simple and breaks it down to reinforce that it can be quite simple and easy to use if you understand the basics of it. Hello everyone, my name is Emerson and welcome to Mental Banter. Today I'm going to be talking about the manifestation basics, in my opinion, and just really breaking it down and talking about how to use it and how it works in the most simplest way so that you can implement it into your daily life and turn your desires into reality. What is manifestation? Manifestation is the process of bringing something from your imagination into your physical reality through focused thought, belief, and action. I would summarize the 3-step vibe of manifestation as, first off, asking and assuming, so getting crystal clear of what you want. Then aligning, so shifting your energy to match that version of you that has that desire. And then number 3, receiving, so just taking inspired action and being open to opportunities. Now, that sounds pretty simple, I feel like, when you speak about it like that, but how do you actually do that? How does one actually do those 3 things and do it successfully? And this is where I'm going to talk about the laws of the universe. Now, I know that sounds a little daunting and not very manifestation for dummies coded in a sense, because the laws of the universe can be a little overwhelming to learn about in a sense, but I'm going to be pulling 3 laws of the universe from both the modernized 12 laws of the universe and the 7 hermetic principles, which is an older version of the laws of the universe. Pulling 3 from that I feel are like the 3 main ones in a sense that I have used the most, that I feel like have helped me the most as well in achieving what I desire. Because I like to think about, manifestation and those 3 steps as the umbrella, and I feel like the laws of the universe fall under that umbrella and really help you, I guess, achieve what you want in manifestation. 3 laws I'm going to be talking about are the law of attraction, the law of assumption, and the law of action. In a sense, I feel like also all the laws of the universe are very interlinked, and for one to work, you also use the other. So these 3 laws also fall under so many other categories in a sense, and are subsets to a lot of the laws of the universe. But anyways, I'm going to break it down very simply and talk about one each individually. First off, the law of attraction. The law of attraction I would consider is a subset to the law of vibration. The law of vibration kind of talks about that everything is energy. And due to that, since everything is energy, your energy pulls in matching energy. Essentially, you attract what you are and you attract what you feel and focus on. So it's very energy based. So within your brain, you have a reticular activating system. Big words, okay. This system in your brain, the RAS, is kind of like a filter for what information you take in. So your brain filters information based on what you think is important. There's so much happening around you all the time. So your brain can't process it all, so it filters in. And it filters in what you prioritize. So tying this in with, the law of attraction, what you are constantly thinking and feeling and the wavelength that you are kind of vibrating on, you are going to be noticing. Your brain is going to be filtering in things that align with that frequency. A really simple, I guess, way to think about this is, when like you start to like a particular car, right? You suddenly start seeing that car everywhere. That car is showing up everywhere you drive, everywhere you turn, that car is there. It's not that that car just suddenly magically, started appearing out there more often. It's because your brain became aware of it and you started to notice it more. And you can apply this to your desires in your manifestation. So if you were focusing on opportunities, you will notice more opportunities. If you were focusing on rejection, you are going to be noticing more rejection in your life. So some examples of this is like, if you say want more money, if you want to attract more money, you want to manifest more financial wealth into your life, but your dominant thoughts and feelings are around how you don't have enough, you are only going to be seeing the lack of money in your life. If you are wanting more money, but you are constantly focusing on how much money you don't have, you are going to be shown that in your reality. That system in your brain then goes, okay, well, this is important. Let me show you more of it. Because the thing is, like, this system in your brain, it doesn't really care for whether it's a negative thought or a positive thought. It's just going to be showing you what you are constantly thinking about. And on the other hand, if you wanted more money and you weren't coming from a place of lack, but say like a place of gratitude, so you showed grace for every single paycheck that you got, or you were grateful for the money that you do have, took opportunities to make more money, or educated yourself more in finance, or made the extra effort to save more, you are probably going to be noticing more financial abundance in your life because you were coming from a place of gratitude in your mind and you're focusing on the money that you do have and the opportunities that are out there for you to make more money. Some other examples are like in terms of dating. If you think all guys mess me around, every guy I've dated sucks, and there's no good guys out there, the world's going to show you that. If that's what you were thinking, then that's what you're going to be shown, because subconsciously, whether you realize it or not, you are going to expect inconsistency. And I believe what you expect is what you're going to receive, because if you expected more, you wouldn't tolerate inconsistency. You can acknowledge something that's happened. The thing is, like, it's not like a toxic positivity. Like, you are human. We naturally have doubts and we have days where we aren't always thinking positively, and we have, those moments, of course. Acknowledge that. Like, I think it's unhealthy to be thinking positively all the time, but it's about acknowledging that, but then also knowing that you don't have to get caught in that negative loop and you can still break free from that. Just in summary, your brain wants to prove you right. Your brain wants to show you evidence of what you believe is true, or what you think is true and what you feel is true. So if you are thinking that your life is shit, well, then you're going to be shown how your life is shit. But if you are looking for better, then you will see better. It creates the lens on your world. So use that system in your brain to your advantage. Start focusing more on the positive than the negative. Start showing gratitude for the things that you already have, and the world will show you more of it gradually as you start moving on. Essentially, your thoughts and I guess your emotions kind of influence the energy that you're at. If you're vibrating at a certain frequency that aligns with something that you're desiring, you're going to be more open to be seeing it and seeking it out. And I guess also it builds your confidence in a sense, because if you are also thinking more positively, you're going to be, I guess, essentially more confident or more prone to take the opportunity. And therefore you can get more into a positive loop than a negative loop. Next up, the law of assumption. I would say the law of assumption kind of ties into the law of mentalism. The law of mentalism is basically just saying that the world is made up of mind and thought, and that reality is a mental creation. And I would say the law of assumption ties into that, because considering that the world is a mental creation, if I change my mental assumption, then the outer world has to change to match my inner reality. I know that might sound a bit confusing, but let me cook. So I would say that the law of assumption is a bit deeper in a sense than the law of attraction because it's more identity based. It's kind of surrounding your belief system. So it's less about like your conscious thoughts and more about your deeper beliefs about yourself. So like an example of this, you can think, I want a healthy relationship. And that's you thinking, that's, I guess, the law of attraction. But if you believe, oh, but I always get treated badly, that's assumption. Guess which one wins? Assumption every time, because that is your actual belief system. You can think and focus on everything you want, but deep down, if you actually don't believe that you are worthy of something, or if you aren't open to challenging those negative beliefs, then it's going to be harder for you to get what you desire. So the way that I kind of, compare this to attraction is that the law of attraction, influences what you notice and what you attract into your life in a sense. But the law of assumption influences how you behave about it, if that makes sense. Because you can attract something that you desire, but if you deep down don't believe that you actually are worthy of it, or if you don't associate your identity with somebody who has that thing, you potentially might self-sabotage it or push it away or not take it on board. For example, right, if you are wanting another job, if you want a better job or if you want a particular job, and you are kind of focusing on that in your mind, and you, I guess, are intentionally wanting to attract that into your life, and you start to notice more job opportunities or overhear more conversations, or it just seems to be aligning that there are a lot more opportunities out there now for this potential new job that you want. Say you take the action, you go for the job, an opportunity arises to you. But deep down, you still believe and you assume that you actually, aren't worthy of that job, or you might not be capable enough to do that job. Like if you believe, oh, I'm not that impressive, I probably won't get it, that's gonna, whether you realize it or not, influence your behavior. You might come off a bit unsure or very nervous or undersell yourself. You're going to be sending off an unsure energy in a sense, and your behavior is going to reflect that. So you can attract, everything into your life, and you can align your thoughts, and you can be more intentional with what you're thinking. But if you deep down actually don't believe that you are capable of something, you potentially might sabotage it. A way that I would say that you can work on this is challenging those beliefs. Of course, you're human and we all have our limiting beliefs and our own insecurities. But the more, I guess, you can become aware of those is the more that you can work on them and challenge them and change them. A limiting belief, I would say, it's a repeated thought that your brain treats as a fact. So if you are thinking, oh, I'm not good enough and, nothing ever works out for me and I always get treated badly, then your brain just interprets that as a fact. So using the law of assumption, you change what feels to be true, and that can be uncomfortable. And this can take time. First off, it's, I guess, about confronting yourself, which can be daunting and a little uncomfortable. And, you confront these feelings, be like, well, why do I feel this way? Or, is this something that I actually believe to be true about myself? Sit with it a bit, and that can be very uncomfortable. But you can't change something that you're not aware of. So first step, I guess, would be awareness, that limiting belief that you have. It's not just immediately jumping to the other end of the stick, but it's about, loosening it and I guess, becoming slightly uncomfortable, with a new belief that you were replacing it with. So like, I would say, for example, say like, really deep down, you really feel and believe that you are just so awkward and not charismatic and not confident at all, and you feel very insecure. Whereas if you change that belief, just slightly ever so change it and be like, you know what, I feel this way about myself, but I know that I am capable of being confident. I'm someone who's learning how to be confident. Just changing those little things and reframing it in a sense where it's not just deciding and assuming that this is who you are, but it's giving yourself room to change in a sense and change that belief and, you know, giving yourself grace. Okay, now the third one, the law of action, which I would tie in with the law of cause and effect. I would say it's about, you know, nothing changes if nothing changes. This is the quite literal, just physical action in the process of manifestation. So you have, you know, your energy-based one with the law of attraction. You have your identity-based one with the law of assumption. And then, you know, you have the physically based one with the law of action. And that's the notion of actually just doing something. I feel like, you know, you can manifest $1 million, or you can try to attract it. You can do all these little methods, but if you actually aren't seeking out ways to receive $1 million, then I don't think you're gonna get it. Like, I like to think of it as it takes two to tango. You know, you can put out something into the world, into the universe, and say, all right, I want this. The universe wants to help you, but you got to show that you want this just as much as, you know, you've said you did. And that's by taking action. You need to give the universe something to work with. So it's not just like random hustling and little, you know, spritz of action. It's, you know, aligned action that aligns with the version of you that you want to be, that receives what you want. And this is where I feel like, you know, people get kind of swept up in manifestation. I know I definitely have, is, you know, you can create all these mood boards, you can do your affirmations daily, but if you still aren't, you know, taking the actual action to do something, then, you know, you're not going to just magically receive something in a lot of cases. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if this is something that I guess you guys would want me to talk more about, I'm more than happy to. There's certain methods that I use that I would be happy to share, and daily things that I do in terms of this type of stuff. So yeah, if you guys want to see more of it, let me know. And yeah, I'll see you guys. Love you. Bye bye.